Hey guys in Facebook land. Wait a couple seconds for you guys to tune in. Hey guys, how are you doing? I'm gonna give a few minutes for more people to join. I'm watching the Trans-Allegheny episode as I'm talking to you guys because tonight is very special. We have a bonus episode of Trans-Allegheny with commentary and new footage from me and Nick, which is really cool. Trans-Allegheny was probably one of my favorite places that we've ever investigated. It's one of the scariest places that we've ever investigated. But it's also, I think, one of the most special places we investigated because we got to talk to Beth, who used to work there years ago. And she really shared a lot of stories with us on, some of the patients that were there and the other staff members. And I think she really brought to life what the place was actually like during its operation. You know, a lot of times we go into these places and we just hear the scary side of it and the bad part of it. And, we have to remember that they did not always start out that way. A lot of those places started out very good. So, tonight was Waverly Hills, which, have you guys been there before? I'm curious how many people have been there, because this was my first time there. In 10 years of investigating, I had never been there. And whenever I told people that, they were like, I got the shame look. Like, you're not a real investigator unless you've gone to Waverly. But Waverly was definitely cool, but it was scary, but I don't know, the way I heard people talk about it for years is that it was the most horrific place you would ever be, and you want to come out alive and things like that. And I didn't think it was as scary as people had told me. It was definitely scary, but there was more, there was kind of the silent peacefulness about it at the same time. And, I kind of wonder if that goes back to, the sanatorium was built to help people. It wasn't built to do anything other than help people that were, diagnosed with TB. And when Nick and I were there, we actually found a bunch of old letters from people who had been patients there. And one of the things that I had never really heard about from anybody, nor had I really thought about it, was the friendships that people formed with like their roommates or other TB patients that they met at the hospital. And we got to read some of those letters. And to me, that was pretty powerful, because it really kind of put you in the shoes of what those people were going through, the people that slept there, that lived there, that possibly died there. You got to understand better from their point of view what it was like to be there. And then you have to wonder, are these some of the people that are still here at Waverly? So many people pass through there that it's almost impossible to say, yes, this person is here, unless you get a photo of them and you can identify that photo with a name. Meaning like a paranormal photo or paranormal film footage or anything. Let me see. So if you guys saw Waverly tonight, you saw the footage that Nick and I captured from there. I'm curious if anybody else has had something like that happen at Waverly. Trying to read these. I know people are commenting on Trans-Allegheny too. Trans-Allegheny is on right now. If you guys tune to Nick is watching that. He probably just made fun of me. I do sometimes I stumble, so when I do that, I'll do and it's a vocal warm up for your lips. So if you ever see me do that, it's because I'm stumbling over my words and I'm trying to get it out of me. It's habit, and I totally forget that there's people watching me. But Trans-Allegheny is on right now, so if you guys tune into TLC, we are doing the Trans-Allegheny episode with commentary from me and Nick about some of the things we experienced there that maybe didn't make it to camera, or just other things that we didn't really get a chance to talk about. And Trans-Allegheny is probably, I'm watching it right now. If you guys see me look away, I'm looking at my TV. But it's one of the most incredible places I've ever been to, Trans-Allegheny. If you guys have not been there, definitely go. Oh yeah, my double step in Waverly. Yeah, that's my little. You have to hop. If you're a female and you hear something scary, you gotta hop. No, I was so scared. That noise in Waverly came from right behind me, and it was so loud. It literally sounded like somebody took their fist and like banged on the window behind us. It was very loud, very scary. You know, you just have that initial gut reaction to, holy crap, there's something behind me and I don't know what it is. I got to move away from here. So, how's everybody's Friday the 13th going? One of my favorite days. It's a fun day to do some spooky things. Oh, you're somebody from France. Very cool. I took French in middle school, forget most of it, but when I've gone to Canada in places where they speak French Canadian, I've been able to recall some things. But normally they look at me like, you know, girl, just give up. Hi from Detroit. Hi, Detroit. Actually, you guys have one of my favorite airports. Detroit Airport is amazing, and I always make a wish in the fountain. I always throw a penny in it. My friend Jimmy's going to Dallas tomorrow. Very cool. Anybody from Dallas? I was just looking up real estate in Texas actually today, because apparently Texas cities are booming. They're the place to be right now. Oh, hi Jenny. Jenny is a 911 dispatcher. Hi Jenny. So somebody just asked, I live in eastern Pennsylvania. Are you from Pennsylvania too? I am. I'm from outside of Philadelphia, born and raised. You guys singing the rest of the song, right? On the playground is where I spent most of my days. Yeah, born and raised outside of Philadelphia, and still have a lot of family there. And Pennsylvania is beautiful. If you guys ever get a chance, it's awesome. You know, where I live, we were smack dab in the middle of New York, DC, Baltimore. You know, 10 minutes away from the river for Jersey. We used to go tubing down the Delaware all the time. So it's a great area if you guys ever get a chance to go. So let's see. Let's talk about what's happening in Trans-Allegheny right now. So Nick is sleeping. If you guys are watching, who's watching the Trans-Allegheny episode right now? So Nick is sleeping in, I swear, he picks some of the craziest places to sleep. He is sleeping on the 4th floor. Is the 4th floor? Yeah, 4th floor, right, Nick? 4th floor hallway in Trans-Allegheny. And if it was me, I would have put my bed like against the wall, so at least I could feel a little safe if something happened. You know, I had at least one side of my body covered. And Nick is smack dab in the middle of that hallway with all these doors open, and that hallway is creepy. Trans-Allegheny is probably one of the creepiest places I've ever been. And there's something very bizarre happening there. If you guys ever get a chance to go, highly recommend Trans-Allegheny. Thanks, guys. I appreciate it. I honestly, you guys writing very kind comments about our work, it makes me very happy to hear that you guys are enjoying what we do, because we really put ourselves out there. We go the distance. You know, we're getting hurt, we're getting sick, we're sleep deprived. you know, we're living in these horrible conditions. So it means the world to all of us, the kind words that you guys send us, because it keeps us going. It, you know, kind of gives us that extra boost of motivation. Somebody just told me that Texas only gets like 4 days of winter. You're very lucky. I'm still in Pennsylvania, and it's not like that at all. Normally we get, if we're lucky, we get like 4 days of kind of spring in the wintertime. So somebody asked me this on Twitter, and I'll answer this. And if you guys have been following my work for a while, you might have heard this story. But one of the questions that came up tonight was, do I remember my first paranormal experience? And I have kind of a typical story that a lot of other paranormal investigators have. I grew up in haunted houses. The first house we lived in, I lived there from the time I was born until I was about 6 years old. And the very first things I remember was, you know, I always had my own bedroom, but I was terrified to sleep in my own room. So I'd always end up sleeping in my sister's room. I was scared to be anywhere upstairs by myself, so I'd always follow my sister around. And she's older, so she got obviously annoyed by her, you know, her kid sister following her everywhere. So probably the first time I ever really remember us talking about a ghost in the house was, I must have been, you know, 3, probably closer to 4. I was probably about 4. And my sister, you know, getting annoyed that I was following her, wanted to come downstairs, but she wanted to be alone. So she was coming out of, it was her bedroom, my bedroom, and then my parents' bedroom, and there was a banister, and then stairs. So she was coming out of her room, and as she's going down the stairs, she stops, and this is my sister. She stops and looks through the banister, and she sees me sitting on my bed, and I turn, and I look at her, and we make eye contact. And so my sister just thought, okay, you know, she's just sitting on her bed. She's not going to bother me. She's not going to follow me. I'll go downstairs. And as she came down a few more stairs, she saw me sitting at the foot of the stairs. And I remember this because I was playing with a Winnie the Pooh puzzle. It was, I don't know if you guys remember these puzzles, but they were blocks. And on each block, they had a picture. And you had to flip the blocks over to make the whole puzzle. And I remember I was playing with that, and she came downstairs and she said, "How did you do that?" And I said, "Do what?" And she's like, "Do that. You were just upstairs." I'm like, "No, I wasn't." And, you know, went back and forth until we kind of realized, oh my gosh, what was that? Who was that my sister just saw? And what's weird is my sister said she looked like me, but just a little different, like something was off about her. So my sister was probably about, if I was 4, she would have been about 8. So, I mean, she definitely saw someone. And the other things that happened in the house was my sister would actually see a tall, skinny man walk into the bathroom every night. And, well, not every night, but a lot of nights. And when she asked my mom about it, my mom's like, "Oh, well, it's probably just your father." And my dad, you know, was a big Italian man. So, you know, definitely wasn't Dad. And then my aunt moved in after us, and she had a lot of weird experiences. And then the people after that actually approached my mom and asked her, you know, did you guys ever have weird things happen? And of course that sparked up the conversation between my mom and the new homeowners, because they were having a lot of weird things happen. And again, it was really, seemed like very childlike activity. And it was in their children's bedrooms, which that's how it was for us. That's how it was for my aunt. So, you know, I would love to try to get back there and, you know, see, I don't know. I'd be curious if it would remember me, if there's something still there, if it would have any memory of who I am, you know, and maybe that would ramp things up, because the woman who lives there now hasn't really had any experiences. But she doesn't have children. She's older. Her children are grown. And occasionally she does let a client stay at her house. And she did have one client come to her and say, you know, "You didn't tell me this place is haunted." And she's like, "Well, it's not." He's like, "I beg to differ." He's like, "There was a man standing in the doorway of the bedroom last night." So, actually, somebody just asked me if I've ever been to Asheville, North Carolina. And funny story about that, I almost went to college there. There's a college down there that I was looking at, and was very interested in that college, and pretty close to possibly going there. And can you imagine? I wouldn't have gone to Penn State, wouldn't have had this crazy adventure. Somebody asked me if I'm going to write a book. It's definitely on the list. There's a couple different writing projects that I would love to do, but I think probably it's a little ways down the road still. Has some other things that, you know, need to push off first. Another person is asking about our evidence, and I will say that, you know, since I've been doing lockdown and working with Nick, it's been some of the craziest and best evidence I've ever seen. And I think sometimes people can be skeptical about that, which I totally understand and I get. But I do think there is something to us spending the 72 hours there. And I've noticed this even when I worked on Paranormal State, because we investigated for 3 days. And I've heard this from other investigators too. It's like, you know, the first night you don't really get anything. The second night, sometimes you do. Third night, usually off the hook. And I think that's how it is for families too. You know, I rarely meet a family that tells me they moved into a house and the first night, you know, all hell broke loose. It's a slow process. It happens over a period of time. So if you think about it that way, it makes sense that Nick and I are getting these pieces of footage that seem to grow in intensity the longer that we're at a place. It's almost like they're getting more comfortable with you, or if it's not a conscious thing, like they're getting more comfortable with you. If it's purely an energy thing, you know, maybe we're coming in and we're disrupting that energy, and the longer we're there, it's kind of settling and it's able to do its thing. Which is creepier, Waverly or Trans-Allegheny? Oh, I'm going to say Trans-Allegheny for me was creepier. We did get the creeper, which was like the craziest piece of footage I've ever seen in my entire life. I still have no idea what that thing is. It was insane. It was, I will never forget that night. Nick, Rob, and I were in that hallway for hours experiencing things. And for the most part, not everything, but I would say like half of everything that we were experiencing was very subjective. And, you know, Nick would experience something, but Rob and I want it. And then I would experience something, but Nick and Rob want it. And then all of a sudden, you know, things are ramping up and each experience is getting closer and closer to the last one. And then Rob's, his batteries were dying on his camera and he heard footsteps behind him. And then pretty much directly after that, I think it was like within a couple seconds, maybe 30 seconds to a minute, is when he captured that blob that turned into like a human crawling and then slithered away. So to me, that's, I mean, if you guys are investigators, you know the feeling I'm talking about. It's that you just know something is off. You know something is happening. You know you're not alone. And I mean, I will just never forget that night, because it was one of the craziest investigations I've ever been on. Has there ever been a time where we couldn't finish a lockdown? No. Nick and I are both pretty stubborn people. So I think something really crazy would have to happen for us to be like, you know, forget this, packing up, leaving, not going to finish our work. I'm pretty sure one of us would have to, like, I don't know, serious injury, or the place would have to go into, you know, that in Poltergeist where it just goes, I think it'd have to be something like that. Ooh. Guys, I'll be right back. 1 minute. Sorry guys, just heard my cat doing something bad. And if nobody has seen my cat, I talk about him all the time. His name is Gus and he's 10 months old, and he's all gray, and He's a little sweetheart. And when I'm on investigations, before I go to bed, I'll look at pictures of him because it calms me and it makes it seem not so bad. Why do I sleep with the covers over my head? I don't know. I always do that. When I'm at home, I do that. I put them up. They have to be at least to like here when I go to sleep. Otherwise, I can't sleep. I can't fall asleep. If they come off while I'm sleeping, I don't really seem to notice, but I can't fall asleep unless I have some kind of covering. Pizza's here, right? I called the pizza guy. That would get into a weird live chat then, wouldn't it? Where and when did I begin to find the truths about the paranormal? Like, when did I start? Honestly, ever since I was a kid. I think I'm really similar to a lot of other investigators. It was just, I had these experiences as a kid. I wanted to know what they were. I wanted to know what caused them, why they were happening, why they were happening to me, and, maybe not other family members. And so I don't ever remember a time where I wasn't interested in the paranormal, or I wasn't reading about it or researching it, or, trying to find out answers to it. I can't ever remember a time where I wasn't thinking that. Has there ever been a time I wanted to run out of house and not go back in? Yeah, Black Monk House, when I was scratched. You guys didn't see it on camera, but for about at least an hour, it was probably like 2 hours afterwards, I was holding back tears the whole time. And it might sound silly, it might sound maybe over dramatic, I don't know, but it really, I don't have an answer for that. I don't have an answer for how that happened, why that happened. I've studied with some of the best paranormal investigators in the world, especially those that have specialized in demonic hauntings. And I know what they would tell me. I know these things, logically. But when you have something like that happens that defies any kind of scientific explanation you would have, I don't know how else to explain it, except it just, for me, it like cracked my foundation a little bit of, building all these layers of what I think I know, how the world works, and then have something happen that's so personal, having a scratch mark appear on you. It upset me greatly, and there was about half an hour, maybe 20 minutes, where I sat upstairs and I was talking to Nick, and I think I lost my ever-loving mind, because I was just rambling off about all these things, and I don't even remember what I was talking to Nick about, like very vaguely remember what I was talking to him about. I think I was kind of in some sort of shock. My brain was trying to put all the pieces together, and it couldn't. So I would say Black Monk House was the one that I wanted to run away from. I live in West Virginia. Did you guys experience a lot at Trans-Allegheny? Absolutely. Trans-Allegheny is one of the most haunted places I've ever been. It's one of the scariest places I've ever been. And, we experience, definitely the creeper, footsteps, shadows, voices, just a lot of subjective feelings too, like anxiety, or just feeling physical sensations that you knew weren't coming from your own body. So things like that were happening a lot. Oh, wait, somebody said something about my shoes. Yeah, so I was just asked about why I wear my shoes to bed. And so this is because if I have to, these places are not in good condition. I don't think we've been to one place that's like a cozy little home, So if something happens at night and I have to get up and run, either because I'm terrified or because, you know, something's happening to Nick and I need to go see if he's okay. I'm not going to have time to put on shoes. And, you know, for safety reasons, it's just easier to sleep with my shoes on. Happy birthday, Sheila. Sheila's going to be 17 tomorrow. Happy birthday. 17 was a good year for me. See. Have we been to Savannah, Georgia? Ah, interesting question. We may or may not just have an episode coming up this season that takes place in Savannah, Georgia. Actually, it was funny. I did just go on vacation there, and I went on a ghost tour, and it was the funniest thing because the guy kept referencing all these paranormal shows, and he's like, have you guys ever heard of that one paranormal show with that guy Nick? And I'm like in the group, I'm like, yeah, I've heard of Nick. So it's funny, and then it was funny because, you know, then he's trying to explain what EVPs are and different paranormal terminology, which he did a very good job on. But it was just funny. Yeah, sleeping in a morgue sucks. Somebody just said they would never do it. It sucks. On a psychological level, it's awful. I don't like to... Well, I'll put it this way. I think about death, right? Because I know it's going to happen. I know at some point it's going to happen. And when I think about time, like time frames in that way, I get freaked out about time because it messes with my head a little bit thinking about how fast time goes. But I don't like dwelling too much on the fact that it's going to happen. I try to, you know, enjoy the time I have. So psychologically sleeping in a morgue is pretty effed up, you know? But in a very weird way, it's kind of comforting too. And hear me out on this because I know it sounds weird, but you're kind of enclosed in this little box and it's, you know, it kind of blocks out some sound, it blocks out some light. So in a very weird, macabre kind of way, it's comforting. I kind of feel like a cat, you know, when a cat jumps in a box. I don't know. Yeah, the Sorrel Weed House in Savannah. We actually did a tour there, and it was funny because the guy who gave us the tour, he was awesome, but he was like, he was asking, have you guys ever heard of that show Ghost Hunters? So he's like going through all these other paranormal shows that have been there. He's like, have you guys ever heard of them? I'm like, yeah. Let me see. Sonia just asked, hi to Sonia Burns' daughter. Sorry, I didn't get her name. Let's see. Oh, I'm sleeping in the morgue right now in Trans-Allegheny. Trans-Allegheny, I think the morgue in Trans-Allegheny was a little worse than the one in Waverly because at least the one in Waverly was cleaner. In Trans-Allegheny, if you guys are watching it right now, how many people are watching the episode? You guys can see all the debris that I don't know what they made. Is there some sort of like it's not all metal, but there's some sort of material that they use that's literally deteriorating, and it was like falling on me. And you can see it behind me, behind my head in the episode. You can see all the little pieces. It was gross. No, actually, I didn't get a chance. Somebody just asked if Patrick Burns was my guide in Savannah, and I totally forgot that he lives down there. So no, I didn't get a chance to see Patrick. So I'm always curious about this. So the places that we've been so far that you guys have seen, if you guys have investigated those places too, did you guys have similar experiences that we did, or did you have completely different experiences? Yeah, our friend, my friend Lee Kirkland just said sometimes 72 hours isn't enough at these places, and that's definitely true. You know, sometimes really cool evidence that we get gets cut out because we don't have time for it on the show. And you know, investigating wise, the bigger places, it definitely seems like we don't have enough time. And even some of the smaller places, like even though Black Monk House scared me, and we spent 100 hours there, and I shouldn't say this because then I know what's going to happen, right? Then we will end up spending like 400 hours there. But I am curious, just as a researcher side, you know, what it would be like if we spent even more time there. What if we spent a month there? You know, would things get even more crazy? I'm sure they would. Does anything ever come home with me? Absolutely. Sprained ankles and colds and fevers. But definitely a couple of times I've had things come home with me. The first time I had something follow me home, I was working on Paranormal State, and it was what we believed to be a demonic case. We had kind of exhausted all other options as far as, you know, natural causes, psychological causes, things like that. And we couldn't find a reasonable explanation to explain everything. So after that case, I had something follow me home. And it was funny because at the time, I was living in a townhouse with 2 other people. And what I started to realize during the time that I lived there for about 9 months, I think. During the time I lived there, I noticed I stopped doing all these little habits I had. So when I'm at home, a lot of times I sleep with the TV on. I can't fall asleep without it. You know, or I sleep with the covers over my head. You guys have seen that. I talk to myself a lot when I'm at home, or I'm constantly singing. I'm constantly trying to make some kind of noise. And I'll kind of scurry out of a room a little faster. Right when I enter a room, I'll flip on the light switch as fast as I can. And when I moved into the townhouse, over, I don't know, maybe 2-3 months, I realized I wasn't doing those things anymore. And it wasn't a conscious thing, it was just something that kind of happened. And then I realized, I was like, oh, you know, I actually feel alone in this place. I don't feel like there's somebody watching me. I don't feel like there's somebody right over my shoulder. And then I went on this case, and it didn't happen right away, but it was maybe like a week or so later. I was down in the kitchen, and I couldn't sleep, so I went downstairs to get a drink. And there was this overwhelming feeling of somebody standing right there, like bearing down on me. That bully type mentality. Let me fix my light here because that's bothering me. That bully type of mentality, and it got so bad to the point where I actually looked out the windows because I would have sworn that somebody was standing outside watching me. And this went on for about 2 to 4 months, so let's say 3 months, where I would have those feelings, things are being moved, you know, I'd hear noises, and I noticed I started doing all of my little habits that I had done before in other places I've lived. And the kind of peak of it was I was trying to get to sleep one night, and I heard breathing in my ear. There's nobody there with me. I had the front bedroom. You know, our one roommate slept in the basement, and then my other roommate was totally on the other side, so it couldn't have been either of them. And I heard it in my ear. So that was the first time something followed me home. With lockdown, though, I've had things happen after Hinsdale House and after Black Monk House. Matthew Silvernail. Hey, Matthew Silvernail, if you can go to my website, use the contact form, and send me an email about that. So Zachary Stone said, caught a full body apparition in the main atrium on the second floor at Waverly. Very cool. Curious, was it a shadow apparition or was it like it looked like an actual person? Do I have a favorite location I would like to go back to? Man, you know, all of them are really special in their own way. That's the thing. Like, Amy and Adam. Our friends Amy and Adam are here. That's awesome. Have you guys been watching Kindred Spirits? Amy and Adam do a really good job. They're very dedicated investigators, very kind people. They're good at what they do. And it was so fun having them here because this was my first time. This is actually my first time meeting both of them. And Adam and I both love theater and, you know, karaoke, so we were kind of geeking out about that. Oh, the lamp stirring behind me? Yeah, I keep moving on the couch, so it's probably hitting it. Or it's my cat. He might be behind the couch. Are we coming to San Diego Comic-Con this year? Maybe. We were there last year. And how many people go to Comic-Con? Comic-Con is pretty amazing. If you guys have never been, it's definitely an amazing time. And something, I mean, if you guys have never been to cons, definitely check at least one out. San Diego Comic-Con is probably the craziest just because of its size. So if you want to start out with something smaller, you know, see if you like it. Dragon Con is a great con. Comic-Con has a bunch of other cons throughout the United States, so you can go to one of those. But something I love about the cons is there's this level of acceptance there that is so cool. And I don't know about you guys, but I was kind of the weird girl. I was definitely the girl that was into ghosts and everything. And I don't know, you know, when I would bring that up with my friends, even my dear friends that are still my dear friends to this day, you know, a lot of times it was met with, like, you're that girl, you know, and what I love about the cons is it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter how weird you are. It doesn't matter what you're into. Everyone's just like, cool, I'm into that too. So there's a lot of camaraderie there. And especially, another thing I love there is that they promote just healthy body images too. I see a lot of people walking around in kind of a bunch of different costumes, and you know, I think outside of the con, some people would say things, you know, oh, you shouldn't be wearing that, or it's too skimpy, put some clothes on. And at Comic-Con, at any of the cons, nobody cares. It's everyone's there, they're who they are, and everyone's cool with that. So it's an awesome experience, and I love the acceptance that you get there. Let's see what's happening on Trans-Allegheny right now. I'm curious, out of people that have been to both Trans-Allegheny and Waverly, what was your guys' favorite? And that's my favorite part of Adam, when he's like, what? It's so funny. When did me and Nick meet? You guys are so protective of each other. It's like you're like brother and sister. We are. Actually, it's really funny. We joke about that. It's funny because Nick cold emailed me and then he cold called me. And we had never met in person before. We like knew of each other, but we had never met. And when we got on the phone, it was really weird. It was talking to a long lost friend. Honestly, we clicked on so many levels, and we had been through very similar experiences with different things in our lives, that it was just very easy to talk to each other. And I remember when we got off the phone and I was talking to my boyfriend about it, and I'm like, it's really weird. I feel like I've known him like my whole life. And so then the next time when we talked, Nick and I were both like, feels like you're my brother. He's like, yeah, it feels like you're my little sister. So we had like a little geek out moment about that. But we've been investigating together for 2 years, which is really crazy. It's gone by pretty quickly. But I will share this story too. If you guys have heard our interviews, I've shared it a couple times because it's kind of funny. He was like a slow time bomb with what exactly I would be doing on our investigations. The first time we talked, he's like, well, we're there for 72 hours, but like you can leave. You can totally go to the hotel and, you can go out and research, and like if there's somebody we need to interview, you can go into the town and find them. And I'm like, okay, well that doesn't sound bad. He's like, but I have to stay, I have to stay there. I'm like, okay, cool. But then like every single time we talked, it was like a little more of like, but you'll stay there and, we'll be there for the 72 hours. I'm like, I'm like, this sounds kind of different from what you first told me. Ooh. Is this... Oh, nice. If you guys just saw the preview, next Friday, the 20th, is Bel Air House in Ohio. Really crazy stuff. We had incredible audio evidence that matched up with... it's actually really weird. There was audio evidence coming through that didn't make sense to us at the time. But we later found out it made sense to the person who owns the location. So you guys definitely want to check that out. If I wasn't doing this, what would I be doing for a living? A couple things. I have a lot of different interests. So when I was going to school, I first started out as a psychology major. And I had an interest in psychology, but I kind of didn't really know what major to pick, so I just sort of picked psychology. And although it fascinates me, it definitely was not for me. So then I thought about going into law, maybe going to law school. I thought about being a pastry chef or chef, but then I knew a bunch of people in the restaurant industry, and it seemed very stressful. So I don't know. Yeah, I don't know if I could handle that industry too much. And then what else? I thought about doing makeup for a living, and I love doing that. And I love cooking, and I love, the law. I like learning about the law and, helping people. I like to help people. So that's kind of the reason I wanted to go into law, is I thought, maybe I could help people, maybe I could make a difference. But it always came back to, I grew up in a family that was very artistic. So my parents, ever since I was really, really little, my parents were doing theater, and I would go and watch them tap dance, and they were both always like in drag. My mom was always dressed up as a man. My dad was always dressed up as a woman. And so, it was just always there. Like I could never get away from, music or theater or anything like that. So I went to school for the arts. I could always have my own bakery. That would be awesome. My great-grandfather was a pastry chef in Philadelphia. And kind of a cool story, she was a very famous, I think she was a silent film actress. Her name was Jeanette McDougall, I think was her last name. But he ended up making her wedding cake. So he's a very good pastry chef. And we have all his old books and all his old recipes and everything. So, and then my mom used to bake for the hospital as their, she would, anytime you go to the hospital, you see all the pastries. She was that lady. So, I learned how to cook from a very, very young age. I think I was like 4 or 5 when I got my first cookbook. So actually, that would be cool to have my own bakery. That would be awesome. There's that creeper again. I'm watching the Trans-Allegheny episode. It's on in the background, and I can see it. It's so creepy. And the crazy thing is, I know a lot of people have emailed us over the last year about this, said they couldn't see it on their TV, the creeper. If you guys put it on your computer, you can see it 1,000 times better. Because I can't really see it on my TV the way the settings are on it. But when I have it on my computer, I can see it. And I remember when Nick sent it to me after we had filmed, because we had watched it on playback on Rob's camera, and you can see it, but you can't see it as well as you do on your computer. And when Nick sent it to me, I was watching it, I was like, what the f is that thing? And I was texting him, I'm like, what is that? He's like, I don't know what it is. So, and I must have watched that thing like 50 times in a row, just like, what is that? Who's in the old picture behind me? That one back there? Those are my, where are they? Those are my great-great-grandparents from Italy. They came over from, oh gosh, I can't remember the name of the town, but I think the origins of our Italian side is Naples and Sicily. I've heard different things on the Sicily thing though. But yeah. What's his name? Antonio and Josephine. Yeah, Joe, Karen, I hope I'm saying your last name right, was talking about the creeper and how it like almost like military style crawls. It's very weird. I've never seen anything like that. And what's crazy is that people have been reporting, you know, seeing these things for years, especially at Trans-Allegheny. And, you know, one of the arguments that we hear a lot from people is, but you're tired. How do you know you're not hallucinating or you're not, you know, just sleep deprived? Which is an excellent point and a valid point. What I find interesting, though, is our camera isn't tired. Our camera isn't hallucinating. I mean, Nick and I didn't even see this thing with our own eyes. We had no idea this was happening. And the only way Rob saw it was through his camera. So then that's got to, you know, start bringing up questions about, you know, what is it that the camera's seeing that our eyes can't pick up? You know, why is that happening? And you can kind of see it on my TV. Crazy night, guys. I will never forget that night. Where is Nick? I'm assuming Nick is in his house. I don't know where Nick is. Oh, Michelle, I'm sorry. Our friend Michelle is West Coast. She hasn't seen it yet, so I hope I'm not giving you too many spoilers. The Canada question. I don't have an answer on when it's going to air in Canada, guys. I'm so sorry. I had heard before that it was only a week behind us, but I don't know. But I will try to find out that answer for you guys. What did I think of Waverly Hills? Waverly Hills is awesome. It's definitely a place to go. I mean, if you're an investigator, if you're a paranormal enthusiast, it's definitely a place to put on your bucket list and go to. I think I've met maybe 2 people in the entire 10 years I've been investigating that told me they didn't get anything there. Normally we got so much stuff there. I can't believe it. I'll tell this story. This is pretty cool. I was doing an event in, where was I? Minnesota? I think it was in Minnesota a couple months ago. And a gentleman who has a paranormal group, but he's a skeptic. He's a straight up skeptic. Came up to me and he's like, you know, have you ever been to Waverly? And at the time, I don't think we had released what locations we were going to or had gone to. So I think I was like, oh, yeah, you know, but I didn't say we were there for the show. And we were talking about it, and he told me, not knowing what Nick and I had experienced, he's like, you know, that body shoot, it's really weird. I'm like, oh yeah? I'm like, why? What did you have happen? And he's like, no, I'm a skeptic. You know, and I think he's ex-military too, if I'm remembering correctly. So, you know, logical thinker. And he said there was him and a couple other people who were in the body shoot, and they were at the top. And at the bottom, because it's on a ramp, and at the bottom, they saw this blue, glowy orb, kind of shiny. And it stayed there for, he said, about 45 minutes. And they just watched this thing. And I think he said it was growing bigger at times. I can't remember. But he's like, there was no explanation for it. We watched it. He's like, we all had our cameras out. None of our cameras got it on film. It didn't show up in any of our pictures, but all of us saw it with our own eyes. That's pretty cool. Somebody on Trans-Allegheny. Oh, we're going over the creeper evidence. That was so crazy. I know, it slithered across the floor at the end. It's really very weird place. Amityville's, I'll ask you guys, what do you guys think of Amityville? Because there's a lot of controversy surrounding Amityville. I know Lorraine. I've worked with Lorraine for 10 years. You know, I was very lucky to learn a lot from her. And Chris Lutz, who was one of the children in the Lutz family, I've talked with him, I've worked with him. So I definitely believe that something happened there. But, you know, some people, you know, they say it's all fake. I don't necessarily believe that. I definitely think something happened there. The most frightening thing I have seen. I'm gonna go back to the creeper on Trans-Allegheny. That was pretty freaking weird. I don't know what that is. Oh, and the bite marks on Rob. That was weird. That was very, very weird. Because, well, they were freaking bite marks. I mean, that formed on Rob. And it was weird because you can actually see the indentation of teeth. And there were 2 of them. I don't know if you guys can see this in the episode, but there's 2. And then there's a couple scratches on him. Yeah, going back to the creeper evidence, it's pretty amazing. I read one comment there where somebody thought it was a sheet that we had tied to a string and dragged it across the floor. I don't know. I don't know how you can make a sheet look like it's crawling and then slithering, but thank you, Christina. Yeah, we have formed a very close friendship, all of us. So, you know, it's really great working with Rob and Nick. With the tripod. No? Oh, okay. So the creepiest EVP. There's an episode coming up, and I hate to say this because it always sounds like, gotta wait for it. But there's an episode coming up. It's when we go to New Jersey. We did an old estate in New Jersey. It's an old historic estate, and I don't, is it really the creepiest? It's probably the best EVP I've ever had, because it is just so, it gives us a very crude answer to what we're asking for, but it's also a very accurate answer. So I hope you guys don't get offended easily, because it was pretty out there, the answer that we got through it, but it was accurate for what we were asking. And those are the things that get to me, like when you have audio evidence or even visual evidence come through that's so accurate to what you know the place was, and you know, then it becomes, well, what is this? How does this work? You know, do we really know how this stuff works and what this stuff is? I gotta shift on my couch a little bit. The geophone is cool and strange. It is a really cool device. George Brown is awesome. George Brown will actually be making an appearance on next week's episode, and so will Steve Huff. So the GeoBox, we've had some really, really interesting stuff come through. And what's funny about it too is Nick is actually very good at deciphering what it says. I don't always hear it right away. I'm somebody that has to kind of go back through and listen a couple times. And it's funny because when I'm watching episodes that when they're finally put together, I can hear them so much better. It's like when you're right there, it's so hard to like really pick out what you're hearing. But when you get some space in between you and the audio, you can hear it better. Do I have any special talents that you guys don't know about? I don't know. I play piano. I've been playing piano since I was like 11. I actually started off at the violin, and I was terrible at the violin. I was like god awful at the violin. And me and my stand partner, she was my best friend at the time, we would actually fake playing like all the time. So concerts and everything, we would totally fake it. And then my mom would come up to me after, and she's like, "I heard you. You were the best one up there." And I'm like, "Yeah, take the whole thing." But I learned how to play piano through the violin because the notes were the same. So I kind of figured it out. And so yeah, I've been playing since I was 11. Severely out of practice. I haven't played for a while, but. Play something. I don't have a piano in my house. My piano in my house is it's a piano. When did we get? I think my dad got it for me when I was like 16. It was my uncle's, and it's so out of you can't even play it anymore. The keys are like hardened. But I have my grandmother's in storage, which I need to get out of there. But the first time I played the piano, I'll never forget. I played it for so long that I looked down and there was all these brown smudges all over the piano. I was like, "What is that?" And I looked at my fingers and they were bleeding. That's how long I played for. Yeah, somebody says they think me and Nick are both sensitives, and that's why we get more evidence. I think, and I get asked this question a lot, but I think the more you do this work, I think the more sensitive you become. And I think it's more, your body just gets really used to understanding and, okay, I feel normal here. I don't feel normal here. I feel anxiety here, but I know it's not me. It's got to be something else that's making me feel that way. I think just the longer you do this stuff, your little dial for sensitivity just goes up a notch every single time. And it does help us. I think there's been a lot of times where I felt something, or Nick has felt something, or even Rob. Now, Rob's been having a lot of experiences. And it kind of leads us in the right direction. And then we get this insane piece of evidence. Somebody just asked if I'm married. No ring on this finger. Let's see. Yeah, old buildings do make sounds. Absolutely. And there's animals in some older buildings, and you have to account for that. And that's the thing, guys. I think one of the biggest misconceptions about what we do is that, everything is paranormal. Everything isn't paranormal. A lot of times you'll hear something and you'll find an explanation for it. Or sometimes you'll experience something and you'll find an explanation for it. So in no way do we ever make the claim that everything is paranormal. Not at all. What you see on the show is, our investigations. So you see as much as we can fit into, the 40-some minutes that we have. So sometimes you see us debunking things. Sometimes you see us, talking about our subjective experiences. And sometimes you see us talking about the objective experiences. Because that's how a real investigation goes. and I'm sure my fellow colleagues in the field can talk about this too. When you do an investigation, you pay attention to every single thing that's happened, and you want to note as much as you can, because maybe that sound does have meaning for something, or maybe that feeling that you were experiencing last night, maybe that's something that somebody always feels every single time they walk into that room. And if it's something that all these people that don't know each other keep experiencing every single time in the same spot, then there's got to be something to that. You know, how can all these people who don't know each other keep experiencing the same thing? I think that deserves further explanation. So if you ever see us like note things, it's not necessarily that we're saying like, hey, this is paranormal, but hey, I'm noting this because I don't have an explanation for this yet. Do we ever help spirits if they're trapped? We cover our bases as much as we can, but you know, our job is to collect objective evidence as much as we can, to go in and to investigate and see what our experiences are. So a lot of times on investigations, you'll hear us say things like, you know, you don't have to be here, you can go, you're not stuck here. We'll say that kind of stuff. But ultimately, you know, I think, how do you really prove that you're moving something on? I don't really think you can. Unless I guess all the activity just stops one day. But, you know, sometimes activity lies dormant too for decades. So, I mean, we will say things like that. We've done cleansings before. You'll see that coming up in an episode too. And definitely my past work, we would go with whatever the client wanted to do. So if the client was Christian and they wanted some kind of blessing from their Catholic priest, we would do that. I've worked with Jewish families before. I've worked with pagan families before. And, you know, the best thing to do is always go with what the family wants. Or even, you know, when me and Nick doing these bigger locations, you want to do what the location owner wants. So you kind of have to work with the people who are still alive, what they want to have done. Do you ever play tricks on each other? Actually, we don't, which is kind of a bummer because I'm a huge prankster. I love playing pranks, but I know, I probably shouldn't say this because if Nick's watching, then I'll know about this, but I know if I ever played a trick on like Nick, that he would get me back like tenfold. It would be 10 times worse than anything I would do, because I know he's a prankster too. So I'm just not going to start that war, because it's not going to end good. Okay, so I'll take like a couple more questions and then I gotta go because I have an early day tomorrow. Waverly Hills is pretty clean for being an abandoned place. Absolutely. It was nice, honestly. It had those open windows, so, you know, even though there was dust and debris in some places, you still got the breeze come through at times, so it's nice for breathing purposes. We don't always get that. So the light board that we use in Waverly is, they are motion sensors, so they light up if anything goes over it. And the closer something is, the brighter they are. So if this is the panel and something crosses like here, it's really bright. If something like crosses here, up here, it's not as bright. How long does it take to review footage? A long time. We walk out with 8 terabytes of footage, so you can imagine that it takes a very long time to go over every single thing that happened. Do I get genuinely scared ever? Absolutely, all the time, guys. I get scared all the time. Like pretty much every place we go, I get scared at some point. But I'm so stubborn that I won't let that get the best of me. I can't, because I will be so mad at myself when we leave that place knowing that I let fear take over. I'll be so mad at myself. So I get scared, but I kind of push through it, just because I know I'll be pissed if I don't. And Waverly's on again, for anybody who missed it. Waverly's on right now on TLC. So hi to your grandchild, Jacob. Hi, Jacob. But for anybody who missed the announcement, we are on TLC now. So you can catch all the shows on TLC. And tonight we did do a bonus episode of Trans-Allegheny with some commentary from me and Nick, which is pretty cool, because we don't always have the time in the 40-some minutes that we have to go into, you know, deeper explanation about some of our experiences or things that maybe didn't make the episode. How many showers did I take after laying in the morgue? A lot. Oh my god. Waverly, it's only like 80, 85 degrees when we were down there, but it felt like 100. It was so humid, and it was so gross. So I normally shower quite a bit. I like sleep for 15, 20 hours when I get home, and then I shower a lot. What is on my wish list? So for a very long time, my wish list was England and Waverly Hills. And I was very fortunate enough to be able to do both of those this year. So now my wish list is Hawaii. Because Hawaii is like this magical land. And it's also Hawaii. And I kind of feel like it would be better, especially in the winter, to go there instead of someplace that's cold in the winter. So I keep trying to put that little bug in next year. I'm like, Hawaii would be cool, you know. Somebody said they were, I'm sorry I didn't get your name, but that you guys don't have Destination America, but you have TLC, but you were bummed that you missed the first season. Just a note, keep an eye on TLC, because they have been running the older episodes from season 1. So like tonight, they ran Trans-Allegheny. And I know last week, I think people were emailing me about Anderson Hotel. So they are being run again if you guys missed them the first time around. So the Women's Auxiliary Building, we did walk around. So that's the thing. A lot of times you guys don't get to see everything that we do because we're there for so long. And it's just, you know, you can't fit all of that into 40-some minutes. So Women's Auxiliary Building, we did go to all the floors. Same with the Morgue Building. The Morgue Building has all these other floors, and we were able to go through that. And there's also another building on there where they kind of kept the worst of the worst patients at Trans-Allegheny, and we were able to investigate that as well. Take like 2 more questions, and then I have to get ready for bed. Let's see. Is Paranormal Lockdown available on DVD? Not that I know of right now. But we've been getting that question a lot. So as soon as we find out an answer, I'll let you guys know. But it is on Amazon Prime, if you guys have Amazon Prime. We aren't getting episodes here in Canada. I know, guys. I don't know when it's going to air in Canada, but as soon as we have an answer for that too, we'll definitely let you guys know. But I'm sorry that it's not airing there. I'm bummed that our Canadian friends can't see it yet. Actually, funny story. I'll share this before I go. We had Ben Hansen on tonight as our guest, and the first time I met Ben, it was in Canada, and he taught me self-defense moves at the bar in Canada, and then sold me about tactical pens. So it was pretty cool. I remember all the moves he taught me too. He taught me and a couple other ladies that were at the bar how to defend ourselves if we ever need to. I would love to do Bobby Mackey's. I've never been there because for so many years I worked with clients mainly, and the cool thing about that was, you know, I've investigated places that no one else will ever get to investigate, and that's pretty neat. And I adored working with clients. I found it very rewarding to do that, but it's also very challenging because for me, I get so attached to people, you know. So it's always emotional. It's always hard to leave them knowing that you can give them so many answers as far as these are the patterns we've seen. This is what we think is happening, but that might not be what's happening, you know. And you kind of have to help educate them on the paranormal, and it's not always the answers that they want to hear, which can be really hard. So I didn't get to go to a lot of the bigger places until, you know, the last couple of years. And Bobby Mackey's has always been a place that I wanted to go to. So maybe someday in the future. I'll say this too. This is a question I get a lot that I'll answer for you guys. I get a lot of people who will email me saying that they want to be a paranormal investigator, but they're not sure, you know, where to start. And kind of the tips right off the bat that I'll give you is, you know, figure out where in the field you want to work. So, do you want to focus on UFOs? Do you want to focus on cryptos? Do you want to focus on, you know, demonic hauntings? And you can do all of them, or you can do a little bit of each. You know, kind of figure out what area you want to start with and move from there. And then figure out, do you want to work with clients, or do you want to do bigger locations? Do you want to do both? And if you do work with clients, there's definitely a responsibility that comes with that, because you have to remember that a lot of times with clients, they're going through a lot of other things. So I've had clients in the past that were suicidal, homicidal. I've had clients that were depressed, that were anxious, and you have to realize that that might be out of the realm of what you can and should do to help them. So you either have to have a support system in place, such as, you know, psychologists, therapists that you can reach out to, that you could refer them to, things like that. And you have to know how to handle that situation if they come to you with that information. So it's a very big responsibility to work with clients, and I don't think it's something that's talked a lot about in the field in general. If you're not in the field, I don't think it's something that's really talked about. So that's something. And it's also, you know, make sure you do your research. Make sure you take the field professionally, you know, and respectably. And also make sure you work with people you trust. I think that's the biggest thing, because you're going to be relying on people's eyewitness accounts, and you have to be able to trust them. Otherwise, what's the point, you know? So, and research is key, you know. Again, I always say this, 100% sure, can I tell you what a ghost is? No, because we don't have that proof yet. But I can tell you strange things happen, and unexplained things happen all the time. I've seen it. We have footage of it. And where was I going with this? I totally lost my train of thought, guys. It's getting late for me. Not really. I'm a night owl, but I try to force myself to go to bed early. And I totally forgot what I was saying. So if I remember, I'll tell you guys. But I think that's it. I think it's time for me to get ready for bed. I have an early day tomorrow. I have a long day tomorrow. I'm working all weekend on some things. So, yeah. So, guys, thank you, just from the bottom of my heart, honestly, thank you for all your support. I say this a lot, but honestly, I think it just needs to be said every single time that I have contact with you guys, is that regardless of what you do, it's always hard to put yourself out there, and I hope that doesn't come off as a, whoa, me, you know, but it's sometimes hard because we all know there's a good amount of hate in this world, you know, which sucks. But so when you guys take the time out of your day to talk to us and, you know, give us encouragement and to say the very kind things that you guys say, it means a lot to all of us. And when you guys take the time out of your day to watch our investigations and to send us a tweet, to send us a Facebook message, anything like that, it honestly means the world to us. So thank you, thank you, thank you. And thank you for joining live chat. I hope it was entertaining. It's always feels so weird when you do a live chat because I'm over here like laughing and then nothing. So it just feels like I'm like, hello, you know? So hopefully you guys enjoyed it. And next week, TLC, Friday night, 9/8 Central, we are doing the Bel Air House in Ohio. Really crazy evidence. We have George Brown, Steve Huff joining us. We have, what I was saying earlier is we have some crazy stuff that happened there, things that we didn't even know about at the time that was coming through in our evidence that later matched up with some facts that we found. So very crazy. Definitely tune in for that. And as always, you know, join us on Twitter. We'll be live tweeting. And Nick will probably jump on a live Facebook next week. So, you know, definitely join us. Okay? Hope you guys all have a good night. I'm going to finish off and go to bed. In an actual bed. Still in a haunted place, but in an actual bed.